Hello, everyone. We are live now. Hello, everyone. Good morning and good evening, and welcome to today's live stream of Hetuvadi 2.0 podcast. And welcome, everyone, to today's live stream of Hetuvadi 2.0. This is your host, Sharath. And thank you all for joining last week's live stream. And, uh, and we have given the link. We are going to give the link to join the live stream in the discussion in the YouTube there in some time. And before that, I think let's look at what we are going to talk about today. So last week, the reality show Bigg Boss 7 in Telugu has actually come to an end, and naturally one of the finalists was declared a winner. Now, that's not really interesting, but what was interesting was that after the show has ended, after the show has aired, the fans of the final winner of the whoever the won the reality show this for this season, they actually it looks like there are like thousands of fans that they gathered outside the place where this was being shot, and then they just wanted to meet their meet they wanted to meet the final winner. So this guy's name is Pallavi Prasanth, and he comes from a rural background in Telangana, and he's from a farming family. He's from an agricultural family, and he himself is a farmer. So he himself he became popular actually by through his Instagram, where he posts videos of the things that he does and his farming activities. So, and when he went into Bigg Boss show, so somehow he 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 gathered immense popularity among the general public. So this guy was one of the hot favorites for the final, as far as I can understand, and then he won the title eventually. And so he managed to gather a huge fan following among the viewers who are watching this. And then a lot of them, apparently some, at least I think at least 1,000 people or something, as per what the police are saying, gathered outside Annapurna studio in Hyderabad, where the final was being shot. And then, so they wanted to meet this guy. And it's not, these are not the only group of people who actually gather outside. So there were fans of the runner-up as well. This guy's name is Amardeep, and he's acts in he's an actor in television serials. So there are all these groups of fans that have accumulated. I think a total of something like 1,000 people have accumulated, or at least a huge number. That's hundreds of people at least accumulated there, gathered there. And then so there was some ruckus that was created there. And so the police had to come to the to the scene, and they had to do some sort of crowd control just to manage the situation. And strangely, I would say this is this is something that we haven't heard happening for the sake of a reality, for the sake of a participant in a reality show. But this is something that keeps happening, but in other contexts, I think, which we are going to talk about in some time. But there was a serious law and order situation that was created there, with the crowds trying to attack one another. And when the contestants finally came outside, after the show was done, after the show was aired and it was shot, and then finally when the contestants were coming outside, it's not just the finalists, but it's also the people who participated in the show, who were not part of the final. So there were so these are the people whom these fans were trolling online, were detesting online, were abusing online. So these are all so they're all fans of this finalist Pallavi Prashant, and they also hate these other finalists. So when these people came out, when these contestants came out, they started attacking their cars. And then there was a significant amount of damage that was done to these cars. The rear windshields, they were broken. And then there was also some instances of robbery where they would just take away whatever the stuff was there available to them in those cars, and so on. And it created a serious situation where police had to come and do crowd control just to keep things in place. And so this guy Pallavi Prashant was actually notified by the police. Looks like the police came into the studio before these all of them actually came out, and then they told him that there is a huge crowd that was gathered outside, and so he should not be going to them. Instead they suggested he take another exit out of the studio from which they can provide safe passage to him, so that the crowds won't be agitated, when he comes, and then they won't be, they won't go hysteric and then do further damage or something like that, so that they can control the crowd effectively. And this guy did not heed the advice. So he almost, from what, from the media reports, this guy went to the exit, but then he again, came around, and then he wanted to meet his fans. And when that happened, the police actually came to him when he was in the car and told him just to drive away. I mean, just to keep driving. I mean, don't stop for to meet your fans. So, and then all this happened, and then so this actually led to creation of more ruckus. So when he came out and then he drove away, the fans were now really agitated, because they were not able to meet their star, or the reality show star. And so after all this happened, so the next day, so in the aftermath, so what happened was that the crowd actually, they destroyed uh, RTC buses, and they destroyed these vehicles, as we have seen before. So there was significant amount of property damage done, and then there was a serious issue of law and order that was created. And this guy did not obviously comply to police's suggestions and orders, and then he himself was indirectly responsible for some of this. So a day later, this guy was arrested. So the RTC has filed cases on him, and the police have filed cases on him. And then this guy was jailed and he was arrested. And then looks like he made bail a couple of days ago. So he was jailed on grounds of actions leading to creating a law and order situation, and also importantly, he was also implicated in a case on the property damage, on the damage to the prevention of damage to public property, the PDPP Act. He was also booked under that. So this really caused a big uproar. I mean, this became really a point of discussion in Telugu states, because this is a reality show, Bigg Boss, and a lot of people watch it. It's hugely popular in Telugu states, but looks like the demographics of the people who, most of the audience who watch, are young people. And and a lot of parents, it looks like they keep complaining that their kids should not be watching this reality show, and they're getting all sorts of wrong messages, and it's not really helping them, and it's a voyeuristic show. We have seen all these kinds of criticism that is coming to on the show as well. I think recently, a few months ago, maybe Rationality also made a video on Bigg Boss, because I think it looks like the Bigg Boss Hindi was also airing. They call it Bigg Boss India, but they should actually call it Bigg Boss Hindi. So the Hindi language show was also I think it finished probably. So when that was airing, then Rationality made this video on how it's a voyeuristic show, and then how the people who come and be successful in this show are need to showcase a type of psychology that's not really a great way of emulation. That's not really good to emulate, especially, and it can actually influence younger people who are impressionable and such. And even in Telugu states, there has been a lot of criticism on this show. I think in the last 2 years, there have been people who have been demanding that this show should be cancelled. This should not be aired at all, and then this damages the culture, and it's causing the young people to spoil their minds and not become good citizens for the society, and instead get into this kind of nonsense. And now looks like now they have created a serious law and order situation now with whatever has happened. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about not the show, but why something like this would happen, and also if there are any other serious things that are at the root of this problem. So before we go that, as you all know, you can follow this podcast on Facebook, and you can also join the Telegram discussion broadcast channel and the discussion group that is for this podcast. The links for all of those are actually are provided in the description here. And so the link to join this discussion would be given in the Telegram group before the live starts, and I would be sharing the link to the same link in the YouTube live discussion after in a few minutes. I think now it's the time to share it. So So let me just quickly share. Okay. So, what do you think about this issue? And do you think that Big Boss is such a big is a serious problem? It should. Do you think the reality show itself is a problem, or do you think there is something else which could be the cause, which could be the root cause here? So, I would like to hear your thoughts, and do feel free to join the discussion. I have given the StreamYard link to join in YouTube live discussion now. All right. I think so. There, are, I think there are two things here. One is the problem of. Do we have the audio well? Yes, we do. So yeah. So about the two problems that we see here, I think the first one is how people are actually looking at this. So when we saw that this guy was arrested, we can see in YouTube and in other social media, a lot of a lot of arguments have been made, and a lot of different points have been raised. So the first one was that, so you got, so to put things in context, before all that, this guy, as we saw, he's from a rural background. He's from a poor background. I mean, he's not like affluent or something like that. He's not connected. It's not well connected in any way. And his rise to fame, and also he would keep saying this thing, that he's a son of a farmer. He would call himself a Raitu Bidda, and would just use that. He would keep saying that he's a son of a farmer, before saying something and after saying something. So he would just use it a lot. And then a lot of fan following around him was built around the same sentiment, that he's the son of a farmer. So he's not so much who is privileged so much in the society. And then because he winning the reality show is pretty much the win of a common man in the entertainment business, which is usually dominated by people who have at least some background in some way. At least there will be actors who already had some following before and such. So when he was stopped by police outside the studio, when the police told this told him and this his team that you should drive away, don't stop here, you're creating a law and order situation, you might even lose your life. They actually warned the driver that even lives could be lost because of the situation, so you should just keep driving away. He was protesting. He was saying things like, you see, I'm a son of a farmer. I mean, won't you even allow a son of a farmer to meet the people who like him? And the police that was actually talking to him was it looks like he was a DCP. Is at a DCP level. This guy is an IPS officer who's telling him very strongly that you should move, you should go. So when this happened, so this whole thing was actually, and even the cases that were slapped on him, and the reasons that he was arrested, and the very fact that he was arrested for something like this, that he was arrested, not the people who created Ruckus. They were arrested too, but he was also made an accused in these cases. The fact that that happened is actually seen as a sort of overreaction by the police, and it's usually looked as application of the law in a very strong way, stronger than what is usually done, because it's not a new thing, and this is not the first time that buses were damaged. RTC buses, people do damage RTC buses and public property all the time. That happens all the time, at least in Telugu states. It happens everywhere in India, I think. So whenever a protest happens, whenever it could be like a student group protest, or whenever it could be like a protest that is related to a social movement or a political movement, any sort of public protest happens, usually public property gets damaged, and mostly buses get damaged. They get damaged all the time. So when this guy was put under the prevention of damage to public properties, a lot of people pointed this out, that this is too much. I mean, this is you never book any of people. You don't usually book people in other incidents, not so much. And this guy was booked. And then anyway, he made bail, I think, like a couple of days before. So looks like he's not in jail anymore. But then the fact that he was arrested was actually called by, because he was not directly responsible for any of this. That's what was the argument that was made. So he did not go and then damage any property. He did not go and damage any bus. He did not even get out of his car, looks like, at that point, there, at least. So that was one of the criticisms that was made. Why this guy was involved in this. Is it simply because that he's a common person, he doesn't have any connections? But I think we should look. This is the point about the law. I think this is the first thing that I think we can talk about. And I think the second thing and is about why this culture is even being is even being created. I mean, this guy, apparently he's not a movie star. He's a hand actor in films. He's not usually the type of person you would associate with a lot of fan following. So, but then he managed to amass this much fan following just because of a reality show. And this reality show is not something that would showcase any uh, really any of these skills to entertain people, or usually any of the skills that we value a lot in society, collectively, that makes someone worthy of adulation. So this is a reality show where there are cameras around in the house, and people are just people just talk to each other, interact with each other. They play games, and then most of it's about fights and scandalous relationships and anything that is created in that for that in that flavor. That is what the show is all about. So if you watch any episode of this show, you would get an earful of insults, abuses, people uh, taunting each other, and then all sorts of nasty psychological tactics. One contestant uses on another contestant, and so on. So this is the kind of reality show that Bigg Boss is usually. I mean, there is not. This is that is actually packaged as entertainment, but it is true that most of it is really voyeuristic, and the main attraction of the show is that for the audience to try to see what's going on in the house and how these people are leading their lives every day, and so on. So it's like peeping into someone's personal life and someone's daily life, which is most of it is mundane. But then there are games, and there are all sorts of issues that come up in the show. So so obviously you don't expect people, participants of a reality show, to gather this much level of following. But then what is the reason behind this, and why are people resorting to violence here? So the people who really destroyed these buses, they were not like paid to do this. Obviously there is no indication, there is no evidence to indicate any of that. They were saying that we were distressed. We felt really bad that we were not able to meet this guy. And so because of our anguish, we did all this. And this is not the first time that someone has actually, a group of people or a mob or even individuals, have claimed that they have resorted to violence, or they have resorted to breaking the law because of anguish, and because of someone they really like. And this is something that we have seen happen. We see this happening in Telugu states from time to time, and we are also seeing this happening across the country. So this is not something that's new in India. So to say, for example, I'll just give you another example that happened somewhat recently. A few years ago, um, there is this guy called there was this guy called Kathi, Mahesh. So he was a film critic, and then he would also talk about political issues and such. He's not anymore. He passed away in a road accident, I think a year ago or something. But then a few years ago, he actually participated in Bigg Boss, I think, in the first season. And in one of the interviews that he gave later on, he said he made some comments about Pawan Kalyan, the popular film actor in Telugu. And Pawan Kalyan has a huge fan following. He is one of the most popular stars, with fans, with huge fandom. In I think among in southern film industry, or even in India, I think he has like a lot of tons of fans, Pawan Kalyan. So he made some comments on Pawan Kalyan about his political life. So he said something like, he's a one-man show in his party and such. Now, and the aftermath of what that happened was somewhat of, I think that was a scene to that what was the scene to remember. So he somehow his phone number was shared among the fan groups of of this Pawan Kalyan fan groups, and then he started getting calls. Now he started getting thousands of calls. So I think at this incident was covered in the national media as well, in both print and digital, and then in television too, even in national media. And so he, at some point of time, he was getting like 5,000 to 6,000 calls a day, and most of them were death threats, threats to that threats to his family. So telling that they would kill his wife and such. So it's always women get threats of getting raped, and then men would get threats of they being murdered, and then their family getting destroyed and such. This it took a lot of time actually for this to subside, and then it was not without it, and this did not end without any level of nastiness. So he was also physically attacked at some point of time. So his car was attacked, and all these, the people who attacked him were like, I think there were like a couple of young people. They were like, I think they were like 19 years or 18 years or something like that. And I think one of them was even a juvenile. I think it's like 17 years, 18 years. So these are all very young, impressionable people. These are all teenagers. They are not even about 21 years of age or anything like that. So they attacked his car, and then with eggs, and then they tried to hit him and such. And then so this guy did not file any case on any of them. I mean, he gave a lot of reasons, but the point here is, people, this kind of warlike, creating this kind of warlike situation, and people who call themselves fans acting out of doing engaging in violence and acts of violence, and then abusing someone, physically assaulting someone, and then threatening someone, and then acting upon it, and then breaking the law. So this, on the pretext or on the name of admiring someone else, is not new. And this keeps on happening all the time, even online, if you look at it. Now we are talking about, it's not so, till now I think I will give you two examples where of adulation and fandom for a reality show participant and a movie star. But what about other admiration for other kinds of in other areas? What about things like people who abuse troll? It's not just trolling. I mean, it's abusing and then engaging in cybercrime, threatening people on Twitter, for example. This happens this is very common for celebrities, and not just for celebrities, for a lot of people. They get death threats, they get abuses, all just for saying something, and then people who threaten them, they just usually say that because they are threatening them or they are abusing them because they admire something else, or a person, or a political party, or a religion really there, or a political ideology for that matter. So looks like the root of all this lies in the value, lies in something that we treat as a value in our society and in our culture, which is loyalty. So if you look at this, the admiration for something is really about someone being loyal to this person. And we have a comment from Srikanth. He's saying fan wars happen regularly in Telugu states, and fans are loyal to the celebrities in a toxic level. That's true. That is, and this is really a toxic culture of fandom. And this fandom, I think we readily recognize it as toxic when it happens in an incident like this that happened now with the reality show participant. And when it happens with a movie star, some of us, and maybe many of us, a lot of us would think that it is indeed toxic. But there are always people who said in that situation with Kathi Mahesh, as that this guy brought it upon himself. I mean, he could have stayed silent, or he could have shut his mouth, and none of this would have happened. And they were implying that this is something of a very quote unquote natural reaction that one should expect from doing something like this. And I think that is normalizing this kind of behavior as something natural. I think that's a problem. I think that's where the toxicity is. I think one part of the problem is this violent behavior by people who are loyal to this person, who think themselves that they are loyal to this persons, and then to these people, and then doing all these things out of admiration. And the other thing is that society at large normalizing this as a type of natural behavior. I think these two are really two are equally problematic, if we look at this. And Sandeep Kumar says that that in his opinion, this show is a total waste with more damage to society. Fandoms already ruined themselves in terms of their time, money, life with movies or serials, and now a crappy show with endless drama. That is indeed true. Now, so yeah, I don't think Big Boss is such a great show. I don't know. I mean, what the showrunners are thinking about it, maybe they can turn it into a decent show of worthy entertainment, but they want to apparently, from the last at least a few seasons, they want to, at least in Telugu, they want to just cater to this masala type of entertainment, where the entertainment is really about creating scandals, and then by making people behave nastily, showing the worst side of people. And then, so yeah, I think Big Boss is bad, but I don't think just canceling shows is going to help in any which way. I think it's the culture of building, of people normalizing this behavior, this violent behavior, where people would act out of loyalty. I think that's what I think at a deeper level needs to be addressed. So we have Talk Rationally, that who's in our discussion now. I'm just adding them to the stage. So we have Govind Garu from Talk Rationally in our show. Hello.
Hello, hi, Shakti garu. Good morning. Can you hear me, Andy?
Yes, can hear you.
Yeah, Shakti garu, I do have one question, Andy. So you see that if there is a, for me, the Big Boss games looks like the kitty cat party games. So, for example, there is a game called, say, for example, musical chair game. So in the musical chair game, like for example, someone won the game, and then do you see a huge fan following after that person winning that musical chair game? So I'm just trying to analyze like the value of these games. Those guys play in those rooms in that controlled. Someone is watching them. So all these small games like a kitty party games are playing, and then if someone won, so what kind of value those guys like the fans? Why fans are appreciating for the people playing games that you play in some of the get-together parties in our like home or some places, like most of the women play like small games, and then gents also participate in such games. So in that one, so what is the value that other fans are seeing if someone winning such games? So that is the first thing. And second question is that other than loyalty, that we discussed it in our show yesterday, other than loyalty, do you see that any other like a human like some kind of a eagerness or psychologically or philosophically, can you address that why there is a lot of popularity for this kind of reality games, like for example gossiping or like voyeurism, um, addressing that where this behavior is coming, why people, a lot of people are having a fan following or a like some kind of a paid group or some kind of this social media groups or the trolling or cyber crimes. All these things are linked to some kind of a mad behavior or some kind of um, mass hysteria kind of a thing, or it is related to some kind of a social event that people are really lacking and their urge is fulfilled by these games. So can you address from these 2 points, what is the value, at the same time where this kind of a fan following behavior is coming? I'll put in mute so you can answer my 2 questions.
Sure, Govinder. I think those are really wonderful things that you brought up. So, yeah. So, what is the appeal of the show? I think every reality show has its own appeal. Yes, there is some sort of voyeuristic gratification that audience would get by watching all these participants in a house, with cameras all around and then monitoring all their actions. That is indeed there. There is that level of gratification that this show gives, and I also think there is I think this show, it's about the daily life of these people, right? Inside a house setting. So it's like people are as if thinking that they it's because it's television. So it's as if this the life of these realities. Sorry, the life of these reality show participants. they may get this feeling that it's they are actually watching that in and this is part of their life now. So so they get the feeling that I am actually observing this guy, so I know what this person is about. So I think that's where this whole motivation to admire someone comes from. And when they see it, usually in these shows, whenever we what I mean, at least I, as a person who thinks rationally, would expect emotional outbursts of someone to damage their reputation. So if someone has an outburst of emotion, not in a good way, if someone is very angry and then they hurl abuses at someone and then they taunt someone, usually you would expect them to be shunned by the audience, by people at large. But somehow emotional outbursts tend to increase fan following, admiration, and they tend to gain some sort of following there for these show participants, as long as they turn that emotional outburst as something, as a response to some sort of trouble that they are getting from other participants. So this happened with, I think, very popular. I mean, this is not the first time that a huge fan following was created for a Bigg Boss reality show participant, at least in Telugu. This happened with in season 2. This happened with that fellow called Kaushal Manda, and later on, the fan organizations, that formed, they actually shunned him because apparently he cheated them for money. And after the show aired and after all this came, after all this happened. But when he was a participant there was something called a Kaushal army that was created, as if this guy is a captain or a general or something like that. So, and this guy was acted in TV serials, I think, before, but I think his following came after he started, projecting himself as a victim in the house and such. And then whatever Kaushal army did online was really horrible. I mean, they were trolling everyone. They whatever they did, that was actually borderline cybercrime. That was also many instances of that were actually would fall under the purview of cybercrime. And really nothing was really done then. And even the show runners who were with the Bigg Boss organizers, I don't think they really paid heed to this. And this guy, so what they did was they even rigged the votes for this participant, for this guy. So back then there was Google voting through Google accounts that was allowed by Bigg Boss, and then they just created they created a lot of tens of thousands of Google accounts through bots and all these tools, and then they just rigged all these votes. Now, okay, we have a comment from Curious Joe. They're saying that, they're saying Babu Gogneni had a different take on it. He explained the concept behind the show, which is similar to Big Brother show of the West. This fandom was not there in earlier times. That is indeed true. And actually, incidentally, Babu Gogneni was also one of the participants in this show in season 2, when Kaushal Manda was also there in the house. And he actually pointed out about what was happening in it, and how Kaushal was doing things in the house when Babu Gogneni was inside the house, and then even when he was evicted. I think he also talked about it at length on what really was going. So that is indeed true. That is a valid point. I also think that a reality show is pretty much about what the showrunners want it to be, and of course the sociological and the psychological background of a reality show like Bigg Boss, where people would get to see how someone is behaving in a highly authoritarian setting, could be a teaching for society. It is something for the society to learn, and that would involve a careful direction from the showrunners themselves. There are two conditions to be fulfilled there. One is a careful direction of the show itself by the showrunners, because they would always show us only 1 hour of whatever has happened that day in the house, right? So there is a lot of editorializing that is done, and because of the editing that happens, and then usually they do indeed create a narrative, even though the script might be scripted, the show might be scripted or not. I mean, we don't know that, but still, you can, as they say, films get made on the editing board. So editing actually creates a lot of does create narrative, even when you take footage here and there. So I think that's where the how that show gets directed and projected by the showrunners comes into picture. And the second condition that needs to be fulfilled for this to be really a learning to the society is for the people to understand how to look at a reality show. So they should not really, and for that to happen, they should not mask, they should not get confused, or they should not mask the difference between reality and fiction. Even though they say it's a reality show, it's not reality, right? I mean, because the people who are living there, they would be under stress. They don't have access to phones, they don't have access to anyone else other than their housemates. So obviously the people there, they would be, under a lot of stress, and the psychological state of the people would be different, and they would be getting orders from an authoritarian person, just by through a voice, who identifies themselves as a big boss, and they have a male voice. So when this happens, so I think these two things that need to be fulfilled is one, that first thing is that, it depends on how the show is run there, what they want to project. If they just want to create, if all they say of the showrunners think that the appeal is just the scandalous value of it, then obviously that's how the people would look at it. And also, if people confuse between reality and a reality show, that becomes a problem too. I think those two conditions need to be fulfilled for this show to achieve, to be in line with the sociological context that this show claims. So I think that's how it should be. Now, so, and Curious Joe is also saying that this much craze is not there in Salman Khan hosted Hindi Big Boss. Well, yeah, I think so. And I think there is this problem, especially in the southern part of India, where movie stars are looked as sort of demigods. Now, I'll tell you. I mean, look, someone like Shah Rukh Khan has a ton of following. There is no question about that. I think he needs to visit his fans every day. In the morning, he has to wave them, and there are like hundreds of people that come to look at him every morning, in front of his house and all that. But you would not really see people, committing violence, or building temples, constructing temples for Shah Rukh Khan. I don't know, at least any serious instances of that. And this fan culture, and then this fan associations, and then making use of fans as a group of people, as an organization. I think it's huge in southern India, in South India. And this did not really start with Pawan Kalyan or someone. This has been there for a long period of time. So I mean, we do see that have instances where I think NTR, NTR senior, not the NTR junior, but the senior NTR was adulated like a god, like a demigod. So in many places, in temples, they would construct. There would be a Ram temple, and then the idol of the Ram or Krishna would be modeled after NTR, because he has become so popular with his portrayal of these characters of these mythological characters in films. And it's not just that, he was also successful in politics. He was a chief minister, and this happened in Tamil Nadu as well. So we saw MG Ramchandran, who became the chief minister there, and Jayalalitha was also a popular actor who came to films. And I think there is even I think in many films there is this joke, where someone who is seemingly not a movie star material, who is looks ugly, and a comedian usually, who doesn't look smart, they would come and they say things like, I want to become an actor. And then someone else would ask him, why do you want to become an actor? Because I'll get a lot of fan following. And they say, what are you going to do with that? And what do you see as a future if you become an actor? Would say, yeah, I would act, and then I think after a period of time I'll come into politics. Maybe I'll become CM. So that's like a joke, that's there in many films, actually, at least in Tamil and Telugu films. So I think you can see the kind of culture that we have that is really normalized when it comes to fandom in Telugu states and in southern part of India. So, and and Curious Joe is also saying that people, fans do pour milk on billboards, and this is true, and this is really ridiculous. I mean, we would expect this kind of fan culture persisting among people who are like really young or impressionable, and who might not have seen the world a lot, or who might have like low levels of intelligence or something like that, right? I mean, we would usually associate this kind of behavior with people who belong in that belong to that kind of profile, but it is not so. Recently, the film Salar was released, I hope I'm pronouncing the film right, because Prabhas fans might become angry if I pronounce it wrong. So this film Salar got released, and then Prabha and the fans of Prabhas, the hero who starred in this film, they were, it's a very common scene that the cutouts of these movie stars, they would be, they would start, they would start pouring milk on them. It's like, a form of showing devotion, loyalty and devotion and all that. And so this happened outside India too. So I think it was in United States where where some fans brought, like, a couple of gallon jars of milk, and then they were pouring over the flexi board, or over a poster of Prabhas in front of the theater there. Now so this behavior is not just confined to people who are, not so much educated, or who belong to a certain profile. I think this behavior is pretty universal, at least in Telugu states. And we see that the thing that with movie stars is that this fandom is strongly is causally and strongly linked with caste. So a lot of these movies, because usually, if you take a fan of a hero, there are high number of, these are not like fans who just watch the films and then they say, they like the actor or something like that. These are the people who would engage in this sort of behavior, where they would pour milk, these acts of devotion what they show, and then who also abuse other people, and this kind of behavior, that a fan who a person who calls them the fan and who exhibits this kind of behavior, this kind of hyperactive behavior and then hysteric behavior towards this person, usually comes from the same caste as this hero. So that's I think that's a very common sight in Telugu films too, and yeah, it's also linked with caste. It's most of the times, and these days it's not just being limited to caste anymore, because at least if you look at the fan following of this reality show participants, it's kind of cutting across castes. It's not just limited to that. And as I pointed out, I think before, it is, I think, the issue of loyalty, making loyalty a great value in itself, and then children being brought up with the idea that if you show loyalty to someone, that's a good thing, or having loyalty itself towards something is a great value in itself. So, and what's up with this? So if you look at it, is loyalty such a really bad thing? Because it's out of loyalty that these things, that people do these kind of acts. And then and on the other side, when they do these kind of things, their justification or their rationalization of their behavior is that we are not doing this for ourselves. It's not just for our own reasons and then own selfish goals that we are doing this. We are doing this because of our loyalty towards this person, and because of our admiration towards this person. As if so we are not really culpable for our actions, or we are not really responsible for our actions. And their argument usually is that even if the law says this is wrong, the law would not say this is wrong, even if this is illegal, even if according to law this kind of behavior could be punished, but what we are doing is admirable, what we are doing is ethical, is ethically justified. That's what their argument is. So whenever they say, we destroyed this bus, but we have done this because of our admiration, because of our loyalty, because we are distressed, because our loyalty, which is a great value, which the law doesn't recognize yet as a great value, because we are acting out because of this is justified, and so we should not be punished. And if you punish us, you are the bad people, we are not the bad people. I think this is the argument.
Sharath, I have one question, and one follow-up question that so for example, see this, the 24-hour footage is created in this closed room, and then what if you give that footage to the artificial intelligence AI, and then you give some instructions, and then is it possible? I think it is possible that it can come up with a 1 hour storyline on its own, and then it creates a 1 hour like a short film, and then see that that short film is not without any emotions or nothing, it's just purely based on data it can create, and see that how it looks like. Then there is no need of a Bigg Boss, like someone is really thinking of which one to which creates a fan following, which is more crazier footage. They're fighting each other. Instead of that, the AI can do that same job. And second thing is, what is the punishable thing? Like, for example, someone is showing anger, they are doing some kind of a protest, and then they wanted to show their anger, and they're angry, and then it should be written in our law, in law and order, that the punishment for the damaging the four buses is this one, either directly or indirectly. Whoever is causing this, they're punished. For example, like 6 months, 3 months, they will put him in the jail. So it is there, at that level. It is not like depending on the fan following or some kind of a celebrity, sons or a celebrity people or politicians or rowdies. Doesn't matter. It is there clearly. The damage is there. The cause for the damage is this one. Even the people who are really throwing stones on the buses, so for example, someone captured that footage, either in the social media or in the CC cameras, so they're punished. And the motivation for that and who caused it in the first place, even though there are several warnings. So why don't we just proceed only from the criminal perspective, like the crime has happened?
Yeah, that is true, Govingar. I think, yeah. So I think the first thing that you said about AI created reality shows, yes, that's interesting. I think I do feel that um, people get connected to the emotional the emotions that are shown by these people in reality shows. They get connected a lot. I think it's because there is no background score in it, because it seems so real, right? It's something that is happening in front of you. So I think that's why they get connected a lot. I think if you remove the background music in many films, I think that might be the way to go. If I think that may be the way to gain more fan following for the actors themselves. Maybe that's interesting. Um, so I don't know. And the second thing that you talked about, I think the law. So were you saying that there should be like a strict punishment whenever a public damage, whenever a public property or whenever a property is damaged on the pretext of loyalty, showing the cause of loyalty and admiration to someone else? You're saying the person who was the target of the admiration should also be punished equally. Is that what you're suggesting then?
Yeah, exactly. The same, like the cause for it, who caused it, what is the cause in the first place? And I heard that earlier you said that directly or indirectly, it doesn't matter. For example, the direct involvement is like a 1 year punishment, and indirect involvement is 3 months punishment. So it must be there. So before doing the crime, before committing it, people know that what kind of a punishable the particular event or a particular action is punishable. And then also remember, one kind of a 144 section that is there in place, that they're not more than four people should gathering in one place. In the same thing, whenever this kind of an incident happens, the police put in place like 144 section, so that not these many people come on to applause the person or some kind of a what do you call, like a gathering, these events should happen in a ground or something, public ground, not on the road. So the precautions that the police department should take it, impose some kind of 144 section in that area, so that there is no possibility of this kind of a enormous like a possibility of the crime or the outrage the fans would reach. So that those kind of things, if you take into consideration, these things won't happen. It's my opinion.
That's true, Govind Garu. I think I think another thing what I think they should have done. I see, if I look at this incident, what this happened now, when police have booked this guy under these cases, that's actually sending a message, and that message is to the participants of this reality show, saying that you can't create this kind of environment for yourselves without any consequences. Now, see, if these things, they don't like they are not like organically they don't organically happen, in the sense that it's not like hundreds of people who were just disorganized and then just came on their own. to the studio and then started creating a ruckus. Usually, whenever this kind of thing happens, there is some level of organizing effort that is involved inside it. I'm not saying someone organized them, someone provoked them to do this. That can happen organically in a mob. But for you to create a mob, and then for you to come bring people out of together, that's an activity. That's an activity that needs some organizational efforts. And all these reality show participants, they do right now, at least for Bigg Boss, they are creating their own PR team before coming to Bigg Boss, and then they do a lot of they do have promotions on social media, and then it once it starts once it kicks off, and then they the thing just gets snowballed into a huge fan following and so on. But I think it needs to be made clear to the participant themselves, and I think, as you suggested, to the showrunners, to whoever is behind Bigg Boss and whoever is running things, at least for Bigg Boss Telugu, that you would also be made responsible if your participants, if create these things, and even if they create, even if they gain fan following, and then if someone does these kind of ruckus and damages public property and then violates the law in the name of admiration for this participant, then you also will be made responsible. Looks like the police have said actually they are also going to investigate this, and then they're going to talk to the Bigg Boss showrunners, and then see what can be done to prevent these kind of things from happening. So I think if they are also involved, because this is a law and order situation that was created, and I think that's the way to go here. Because if really, if Bigg Boss makes part of their contract with their participants, that if you don't, that you have to behave in this certain way, and then if you can't claim ignorance of all these things, just like this guy did. This guy Pallavi Prasanth, when he was asked, did you know that your fans actually went ahead and destroyed, attacked the cars of other participants. He said, "Oh, I don't know anything about it," and he was saying like, who are the culprits, and you don't know who is not the culprit. I mean, he was just evading the whole thing. So I think this can be made part of the contract. Responsible behavior should be made part of the contract. And then if someone is causing trouble outside, and then even engaging in cybercrime, in trolling others, abusing others in online spaces, in social media, on the name of promoting one promoting one participant or something like that, that they would be evicted from the house. So that would be the thing, right? So if this is something that's made a part of the contracts, I think then this behavior would stop. I think it's what I think. So I think it should be dealt in that way. And I think if if the showrunners are at least mindful of these things, and they don't end up creating stars out of these reality show participants just by showing some sort of the footage, and then create a narrative that they are being victimized and they are victims in this show and such, because they're not, right? And these people, they get paid for being part of this house, right? They're playing a game here, and it's part of this whole activity, and they know what they're exactly getting into. So they can't say, I'm being victimized. What do you mean you are being victimized? You are just being paid to be part of this house, and you are doing some activities inside it, right? So it's not like you are being victimized in your real life. This is not your real life. And I think that difference, so the showrunners want audience to forget that difference, that this guy who is now abusing someone else, or who's being the butt of insults from someone else, that's not how it's going. His life is going to be in reality, in his real life. This is just a show. This is just a fiction that's created inside. So I think if the objective, I think the showrunners should be cognizant about not consciously making that happen. That they should not be thinking that, oh, let's do this show in a way, let's cut this show in a way that the audience would lose lose grip on the difference between this and the real lives of the participants. So I think that if one maintains that kind of sensibility, I think if they develop that kind of sensibility, then this would also stop. And there are ways to do it, I think, because now if someone is breaking the law, there would be consequences, because the Bigg Boss showrunners themselves know what's going on. So I think they should also be part of whatever the legal consequences that this guy is going to face. So
Yeah, thank you, thank you,
maybe that's
Sharthgar.
the way to go.
I really appreciate your time and effort on this one. And also, I would encourage the audience to bring their philosophical questions, or maybe the questions that are like the human behavior, and then any of the science-related questions, religion-related questions, or any of the dilemmas that we have in our day-to-day life, and you want to get some kind of an answers. I think Sharath Garu will address them in from all possible subjects. So I would encourage that. I really appreciate that this kind of a platform is there, and you will make use of this one. And I appreciate your time and effort, Sharath Garu. Yeah, I will disconnect now and continue the show.
Thank you, Govinder. So I think we have come to the end of the podcast now. I think it's almost an hour now. So here's what my final thoughts are on this. And do drop a comments. What do you think? How do you think we should look at it? On as a conclusion. So I think there are two things here. One is irresponsible way of running a show by Bigg Boss itself. Here in this particular case, and the larger issue being this culture of loyalty and fandom, ruining things, ruining everything. So they are actually ruining entertainment, nice entertainment. I mean, it could be like any sort of entertainment, right? I mean, if you I mean, as long as people are engaging, that's just entertainment. And fandoms, when they make they bring this kind of toxicity into the whole thing, then it's really difficult for anything to even exist, any form of entertainment to exist, to be honest. If I mean, there have been instances where some many actors, they would not like their characters to die at the end or something like that in a movie, because fans would get upset. And there were very instances. I mean, for example, I remember in my childhood, there was this film called Baba. This was a Rajnikant's film, and I think it was released after a very super hit film of his. And then there were like a lot of expectations on this film, and this film apparently did not meet the expectations. That film was a flop. And after the first show or something like that, there were instances where theaters were actually set on fire. There was arson that was done because by fans, because they did not like the film. And I think in my childhood, this incident happened with one of Chiranjeevi's films, Tagore. Actually, this happened in my hometown. So on the first day, I think there was a stampede for tickets. For tickets, can you imagine? I mean, for tickets to a show, and then I think two people died. I think two people or one person died, and they're fans. And then so Chiranjeevi, I think one of his family members, I think his son visited them, consoled them, and then they gave him some money or something, some compensation. Something like that. And then the fact that people are and the fact that someone has died in a stampede that was caused to get a movie ticket, that apparently did not cause outrage at large, as far as I remember. But the act that the gesture that Chiranjeevi sent some of his family members, a family member of his son, who anyway also came to films later on, right, to console the fan, that was really praised as some sort of as a gesture that is seen never before and never after, something like that. So I mean, we as a culture, if we are tied up into these gestures, and then these symbolic gestures, and then these acts that don't mean really anything, but we ignore all the reality that is happening, the things that have real impact. I think that's where the problem also is. So if we are just living in a culture that where we are just fine with the association of ideas in consciousness, but not really looking at reality, the physical reality, and then the realistic impact. And if we fail to look at the reason, and if we just instead of so it's like a looking at in these two ways. Either you look at things as a collection of ideas, your ideas associate ideas in consciousness, or you try to look at reason and causality and why things matter. I think in the second approach would give us actually more would give us more agency to our lives, ourselves. So then we would realize that something like loyalty is best is best when it is confined to the people that we personally know. So if we are loyal to our friends because we know them personally, and then we are loyal to our family, and then we are loyal to things that not things to people that we know personally, then that would be that would have like positive consequences. for ourselves, that would make us behave in a way that is good for all of them. But if we are, we see loyalty to people who are not really, who we don't know personally, and just because they are projecting, they are projecting something, uh, you know a signal or a gesture of, having to know you, of giving a personal touch, like politicians, for example, they always do that, right? So loyalty to politicians, or loyalty to political parties, or loyalty to ideologies, for that matter, they would and obviously, loyalty to movie stars, or loyalty to reality show participants, that would just make us lose sight of the reality that is there, and then make us behave in ways that would clearly violate the law, that are clearly, aspects of bad behavior, and also violent behavior. And we would even fool ourselves into thinking that all that is justified, because I'm not doing this for myself, but I'm doing this out of admiration of some person or some ideology, or because of my loyalty, and so that should not be punished, so I'm not responsible for my actions, or I'm not culpable for what I've done. If that is the way that we are encouraging, if that is the culture that we are encouraging, then that is a very damaging situation that we are getting into, and that we are creating, and we are also seeing that happening all the time. And I think we have one comment here from Sandeep before we close the show, that I'm sure Babu Gogineni went there to make his point, because it's watched by huge crowds, so it makes his job easy to spread rationality. That is indeed true. I think from my assessment is also that you can actually, if you make rational thinking part of popular culture, then it is a really a good thing. And what other, I mean, what is a better way than make rationality part of a show that is part of the pop culture, than that, to make that, to achieve that. I think he was successful to some extent in that. Mm. But as I said, I think the show is all about how the showrunners want it to be. So it's up to them how they want to project it. And if they really want to make this a show of scandals, then that's how the show is going to be. And they should understand the repercussions of the consequences of what they are doing. And I think, yeah, as I said, Bigg Boss showrunners and the management also should be made accountable for the whatever, even for the indirect consequences of what they are doing. And Srikanth is saying the fandom is so toxic that even writers and directors were afraid of the feelings of fans. That affects creativity of the movie makers. That is indeed true. I think this happened with the season 2, as we have seen, and even the finale, when Kaushal Manda won the show because of the rigging of the votes. No one was really happy there. And if I remember correctly, the show, the host Nani, and also he was the guest. I think it was Venkatesh who was the guest in the finale. They did not really, I think they did not raise his hand, the winner's hand, as they do with all other winners, because they clearly knew that this got out of hands, and they could not do anything, and they failed to realize before things got out of their hands, before things went out of their hands. So I hope that they would not repeat the situation, but all they did was stop the Google account voting. Uh, so they were just prioritizing, the winning of the show. That should not be vote rigging, but they did not want to get into what people were doing on social media because of what they are showing on television. I think if you make them accountable, make them responsible, then there would be more responsible entertainment from television. And I don't think the show itself should be banned. There is nothing like banning a show is not going to solve anything, and banning a show is really it's not anything to anything. I mean, it's not even a stopgap, is what I think. I think the effort, whatever we try to do to make it, to make the people, make the showrunner see the consequences of their actions, the indirect consequences of the actions, would be more useful to the society in as a whole, in general, even in the medium to long run, even to develop strategies to make this happen in other areas, not just for reality shows. So that's what Srikanth is saying, I think. And Sandeep Kumar is saying that the last two seasons showcase more harassment, intimidation, bullying, obscene language, physical and mental strain of dealing with fake consequences, totally useless drama. That is true. And apparently this is all making, according to the showrunners, this makes good entertainment. But, I think this is the cheapest form of entertainment that they can imagine. It's like, yeah, that's how it is. So you can actually entertain people with a lot of things, right? And if it's there, it's up to it's the choice of the showrunners there to show all these things, to create a show that would highlight all these things, all this kind of behavior that would make participants behave in this way, and then show all that without editing it away, as some sort of entertainment that people should watch and then assess the participants. That's a bad that's a really bad way of doing the show. I hope you like this today's podcast. And next week, I think we will be doing. I think I'm also interested to do reviews. Film reviews. But not like the film reviews that usually critics do, but from another point of view. And then I'm also interested to do shows on science related topics. As many of the watchers, I've been engaging in science popularizing work, with where I would be talking about where we would talking about interesting topics in science, technology, and also some sort of myth busting and stuff like that. So if you have any topic suggestions, if you like me to talk about certain things, or if you want uh, if you want for yourself to talk about certain things, be part of the discussion, do comment, do post a comment in the under the video here. And also, if you join the Telegram chat group, there also you can give suggestions where we could be engaging with one another in these things. So thank you all for tuning in, and let's meet next week.